for the first material is introduction. The first language acquisition or advanced language learning applies a detailed understanding of target language, which often achieved by comparing mother tongue to target language. This is where cross-linguistic influence, or we can call it CLI, occurs as linear transfer knowledge among languages. So the study of this article aims at investigating the CLI in proposition and lexical semantics. Foreign language interest has appeased a lot of greater audience since it being viewed as one essential factor for successful either in educational or workplace. So this creates an expanding number of foreign language research, especially on bilingualism and multilingualism. And one of the issue addresses in bilingualism and multilingualism is the influence of the mother tongue on target language in production. So there are a lot of previous studies that state by the expert. For the first one is from Kahru in 2006. He state that we may notice it from the word Anglicist phenomenon on how individuals bring their unique characteristic while learning English, creating variation of target language itself. So also the example is also provided by Haman in 2017, as the research proved that first language production provides a significant factor to vocabulary variation and also vocabulary production to bilingual children. Variation on first language influence may influence from the sound, or we can call it accent, also sentence formation and meaning or semantic, and also to the sentence structure. And also from Isabel suggests that influence to hinder full proficiency on target language, while also highlighting the influence as a key factor towards target language variation. Either way, this proves that the learner first language bring impact to the target language production. So for the study of this research conducted at a private university in West Jakarta, where Dutch student in the Indonesia for Business Communication course saw unique variation. Like Dutch student had generated some distinctive varieties of Indonesia, and these variation are different from what we are as a native or other foreign language learner structure. The example is both kesenangan and kebahagiaan go for English happiness. However, there are differences in the usage, but Dutch Indonesian learner seem to use both words consecutively without realizing the difference. So for the research focus of this study is, the first one is what are the Indonesian semantics varieties produced by the intermediate learner, and the second is to what extent do semantic varieties of cross-linguistic influence in language production. So for the next is the stance of cross-linguistic influence. The issue of language transfer, also known as cross-linguistic influence, or we can make it short and we call it CLI. According to Odlin, it explores the cause of knowledge among languages, on how the sound on second language production is normally accentuated or influenced by prior knowledge of first language. Also, Lado research on comparing phonological system, syntactical structure, word choice or vocabulary, also meaning, writing system and culture stood by the idea that comparing different language systems led to reducing difficulty. This is to say that prior first language knowledge somehow conforms to the target language. Also, in 1970s, It has been stated that there were two views on constructive analysis. The first one is the strong and weak perspective that stated by Wardow in 1970. The perspective on strong constructive analysis holds the belief that a linguist needs to demonstrate or needs to explain the full knowledge of semantic, grammar, phonological system from mother tongue or source language to target language to make the appropriate contrast between a language. So the weak version, on the other hand, claim that linguists may conduct the analysis based on limited knowledge the limited knowledge of the system to spot difficulties in learning a second language. So for the next is semantic domain and cross-linguistic influence, or CLI. So semantic is the study of meaning, including words, and phrase and sentence. In CLI, semantic analysis, that has been stated by Odlin. Also, Odlin divided the domain into two. The first one is propositional, and the second one is lexical semantics. Propositional semantics looks at the logical truth in the sentence. In CLA, or second language acquisition, it analyzes what language brings to thought or understanding the meaning of a statement. One issue that propositional semantic addresses is how far semantical structure in mother tongue influence second language thinking process. For example, the production of either passive or active sentence allow researcher to highlight the entities that speaker draws from their mother tongue. A deeper look at the propositional semantic present the reader with semantic case, or the example is the tendency of using active or passive forms and morphological case. Odlin also came up with lexical semantic that deals with how learner transfer knowledge on first language to vocabulary in second language. The example is the English word excellent is excelente in Spanish. So noting some similarities of vocabulary aids learner to focus on other unfamiliar words. However, word similarity in different language doesn't always refer to the same meaning or doesn't always have the same meaning. For example, sugesti in Indonesia doesn't hold the same meaning as suggestion in English. So therefore, learner needs to be careful because not all similar words stand for the same meaning, especially if a local context plays part. This word similarity is known as cognate by Odlin. So a further discussion of lexical semantic brings us to linguistic relativism, which is the stance for how learner grasp the foreign language, such errors Indonesian and English. So Odlin exploration on semantic domain in cross-linguistic influence note several semantic attributes. In propositional semantics, there are two. The first one is semantic universality and relativism, or meaning and thought. The second is semantic case, or syntactic structure that change the meaning. As for the lexical semantic, Odlin divided into three. The first one is cognate vocabulary or similar vocabulary, and the second is lexical universals and acquisition, or the interception of new words, and the last is lexicon and morphology, or morphological attributes that either help or undermine comprehension.
Hey, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm Redifa Jasmine. So in this part, I will explain the methodology section of the study, which includes the participants, instrument, procedures, and data analysis used by the researchers. Let's move. The first one is respondents. In this research, The participants were 6 Dutch students who were intermediate learners of Indonesians with a B1 level according to the CEFR standard. They joined an exchange program in international business management focusing on Southeast Asian studies. Originally, the course was designed to help them improve their Indonesians for business communications since they were extended to take an internship in Indonesia after completing the program. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the program was conducted online instead of face-to-face. The participants were between 22 and 27 years old, and based on the survey, all of them shared the same goal, is to strengthen and enrich their Indonesians, especially for business purpose. They had previously studied Indonesian in their universities in the Netherlands, but those courses were not specifically focused on business communications. As a result, they already had a strong basic foundations in Indonesian and could communicate well in the daily or informal situations. Yet they still face difficulty using formal Indonesian, particularly in writing a test. Okay, so in the next material is instrument and procedures. In this first part, the researchers explained that both qualitative and quantitative method were used to collect the data. The main data consisted of 34 weekly assignments written by the 6 students over one semester. Each assignment came from the Indonesian for Business Communication course, and this text represents how the learners use Indonesia in business-related contexts. And this writing test later became the core material for the error analysis. And the second part, we focuses on the questionnaire, which was distributed at the beginning of the course, and it is asked questions about the student age, previous experience of learning Indonesian, and their motivation for joining the program. Through this questionnaire, the researchers also found that 3 learners had Indonesian family backgrounds, and they often use Indonesian for daily communication at home. And this information helped explain why certain expression or vocabulary choices appeared in the students' writing, because their language habits were influenced by the environment where they grow up. And the final part, we describe the weekly classroom discussions, which were also recorded and used as supporting data. During these sessions, the teacher and student discuss why certain mistakes occurred and what the learners were thinking when choosing specific words or structures. And this reflective process was essential because it helped the researchers identify whether the mistake came from a misunderstanding of Indonesian grammar or cross-linguistic influence, meaning interference from their first language. Okay, the next one is data analysis. The data obtained from the weekly assignment were then used the error analysis method, and the main goal of this method was to identify the less appropriate uses of Indonesian and to understand the kinds of linguistic problems students experience while learning. So this analysis also helped to reveal the varieties of Indonesian produced by the learners. The research is based on framework on Odlin's 1989 theories of cross-linguistic influence, which focuses on how a learner's first language affects their second language productions. In this study, the researchers focuses only on semantic errors, so other types of mistakes were not included. Each sentence or expression containing meaning-related error was analyzed and categorized according to Odlin's semantic framework, which including 2 main types. The first one is lexical semantic, referring to errors in word meaning, and the second one is propositional semantic, referring to error in sentence meaning. If a sentence contains several mistakes, each one was counted separately, and the total number of errors was later converted into percentage to show which type of the error occurred most frequently. Okay, the next one is figure 1. This is an example of error analysis. In figure 1, the researchers provide an example of how the error analysis method was applied to one of the student sentences. The sentence contained 5 different errors, 2 related to noun conjunctions, 1 in the relative clause, 1 involving cognate vocabulary, and another in word structures. Error number 1 and 2 were categorized as lexical semantic, while the third was classified as a professional semantic error. The remaining ones dealt with cognate vocabulary and word structures. This example was included to show how each type of error was identified, categorized, and then converted into percentage for quantitative analysis. It gives us a clearer picture of how the error analysis process actually works in the studies. Finally, in the last part of the methodology, presents the research roadmap, which summarizes the entire research process. As shown in Figure 2, the study began with a questionnaire to gather background information about the learners, such as their age, experience, and motivations. Then, weekly assignments were analyzed using the error analysis method to identify and categorize the mistake. After that, the weekly class discussions serve as a reflection session to understand why those errors happen and how the learner's background influenced their language use. All of this stage lead to the research's result, which revealed the frequency and causes of semantic errors in the students' Indonesian writing. So this roadmap helps us visualize how the researchers systematically moved from data collection to data interpretations.
I am Shahla Aura Pusparani. I will present the first finding and discussion in its learner overview. Learner overview provide a clear profile of the study participant. All of them were students in a Indonesian for Business Communication course who start with a basic A1 or A2 knowledge of Indonesian and then a high motivation to improve their skill for business. As shown in table 1, the participants were between 22 and 27 years old and had various reasons for studying, including academic, professional, and personal goals. A key difference, however, was their family background. In table 1, learner 1, 2, and 4 came from families that use Indonesian in daily life, while learner 3, 5, and 6 did not. This background had a major impact on their learning. Those exposed to informal Indonesian at home struggle more with formal business language, took longer to get used to it, and were slower to correct their mistake. In contrast, learner without this informal exposure adapted more quickly to formal Indonesian and apply correction right away. This showed that at an intermediate B1 level, frequent exposure to informal language can actually make it harder to learn formal language. The next material is Indonesian Semantic Varieties by Intermediate Learner. The analysis of 34 weekly assignments confirmed that 95 semantic errors occurred. These errors are distributed between two main categories. The first main category is lexical semantics, and the second is professional semantics. The first category is lexical semantics, accounted for 62.3% of all error, with the following distribution for lexical, universal, and acquisition represented the majority at 43%. Lexicon and morphology accounted for 3.7%, and cognate vocabulary made up 8.6%. And two categories as professional semantic comprise 37.6% of error, consist of semantic universality and relativism at 33.3%, and semantic case error at 4%. 0.3%. The next is proportional semantic. Proportional semantic based on analysis of proportional semantic, which examines the relationship between statements and their meaning. It has been identified that learners face significant difficulties in using the relative conjunction yang when combining the data from table 2. So a concrete example where learner produced the sentence, we can see in the first row of the text learner check with error column, we can see Indonesian sentence that percakapan yang kolaboratif adalah dapat membangun hubungan. With this English translation, a conversation that is collaborative is may build relationship. Meanwhile, in the name revised statement column, this sentence is corrected to percakapan yang kolaboratif adalah percakapan yang dapat membangun hubungan. And the conversation that is collaborative is the conversation that may build relationship in English language. According to figure 4, the explanation is the root of the problem lies in is the dual function of the word yang in a sentence structure. The first function of yang is serves as a connector between adjective and nouns in the phrase. Percakapan yang kolaboratif is equivalent to collaborative conversation. Meanwhile, the second function of yang is as a relative conjunction in the phrase. Percakapan yang dapat membangun hubungan. The meaning is conversation that may build relationship. The fundamental difference between Indonesian and English lies in the flexibility of using relative clause. English allow reduced relative clause where conjunctions such as that or whom can be omitted, as in the example, the doctor my mother adores, which is equivalent to the doctor whom my mother adores. In contrast, in Indonesia, the word yang cannot be omitted in the construction of relative clause. Next, we can see table 3. It is highlight a common error where learner forget to add the particular. When starting an Indonesian sentence with an adjective such as an example in table 3, sangat sopanlah untuk berterima kasih. This is mistake primarily occurs due to direct influence from English grammar. In English, the equivalent structure is it is very polite to say thank you. It's complete and requires no additional particle. Learners directly transfer this rule, constructing the sentence as sangat sopan untuk and omitting the crucial lah. In this specific structure, the particle acts as a grammatical marker that signal the adjective is the predicate at the beginning of the sentence. Its use is not optional. It is required for grammatical correctness and add a nuance of emphasis to the statement, a function absent in the English equivalents. And then the table 4. Table 4 demonstrates a common error influenced by English, where learner use the demonstrative pronoun ini, this, or itu, that by itself. As in the correct sentence, dia melakukan ini, this is a direct translation from the English structure, he does this, where this can stand alone. However, in Indonesia, this type of sentence require a general noun like hal, things, keadaan, circumstance, or kondisi, condition to accompany the demonstrative. Therefore, the correct and natural sentence should be dia melakukan hal ini, he does these things. Error occur because learner apply the grammatical rules of English, where this or that can function independently. to Indonesia, where the pronoun typically needs an R for the sentence to sound complete and idiomatic. The same mistake often happen with itu, leading to sentence like itu adalah alasan instead of the correct. Hal itu adalah alasan. This is a clear example of cross-linguistic influence or CLE, where the learner first language affects the production of the second.
Hello, my name is Mongolia Zara. So here I want to explain about lexical semantic. So in this study, the latest version of language error produced by Learn of Indonesia appears in the area of lexical semantics, which refers to error in the word choice and word meaning. These errors occur because the learner tend to transfer their way of thinking and the linguistic habit from the language they already know, especially English, and to some extent Dutch into Indonesia. So the next I will explain about the cognate vocabulary. So cognate vocabulary refers to words that look similar across the language. For example, the English word president looks similar to the Indonesian words like president. Because of this similarity, learners assume that this word can be used directly without any change. However, Indonesian spelling and usage follow their own linguistic rules. For instance, learners sometimes write drastic as drastic, while the correct Indonesian form is drastis. In other words, learners assume that similarity in the form equals similarity in usage, when in the fact it does not. So the next is classical universals and acquisition, the latest sources of errors. So this type of error occurs when the learner translates directly from English into Indonesia. They might understand the general meaning of the word, but they do not yet grasp the contextual and cultural nuance of its use in Indonesia. For example, learner may write tumbuh or grow to refer to increasing sales number, when the correct word is meningkat or to increase. Because tumbuh is typically used for living things, not for numerical data. Another example is the expression hidung segar, which is a direct translate of fresh nose. When what is meant is fresh air, which should be expressed as udara segar. So there are also case where students choose a word that belong to the same general meaning category, but it's still inapproach in the context. For example, using jatuh yang bermakna to describe a statistical decrease instead of penurunan yang signifikan or penurunan yang drastis. This shows that the student recognize the basic meanings of vocabulary, but have not yet mastered formal and academic usage in Indonesia. So for the next is lexicon and morphology. Another set of errors occurs in the use of a prefix and a suffix in Indonesian verb. Indonesian morphology is quite systematic, with a prefix like me, ber, di, and a suffix such as kan. Learners often forget to add the prefix ber when turning a noun into a verb. For example, kuliah or lecture must become berkuliah or to attend college classes. Similarity when forming passive sentence, learning sometimes use the active form when the sentence actually requires a passive forms. This happens because English for passive and active differently, so English grammatical structure influence how learned constructs a sentence in Indonesia. So for the last is interpretation of the findings. So from the example above, it is clear that English strongly influence how learn select and construct words and the sentence in Indonesia. The study also found that the learners who are more frequently exposed to informal Indonesia. For example, at home actually require more time to adjust to formal Indonesia, which is used in academic and business settings. This means that exposure to informal language does not automatically support the master of formal language. Thank you.